Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Arizonans and Americans continue to stand with the Ukrainian people against Russia's illegal war. We're inspired by the courage and the determination of the Ukrainian people. We must continue to take smart, aggressive action to disrupt and dismantle Vladimir Putin's war machine and bring this bloody, illegal conflict to a close. Earlier this month, the Russian government announced that Putin has personally sanctioned me, Senator Kelly, and other distinguished members of this committee. You know, when Senator McCain served in the Senate, he was sanctioned by Putin in the exact same way. And I couldn't be prouder to share such a distinction with him. I consider it a badge of honor. What he said in response to Russia was this, quote, "While I suppose this means I'll spend this Easter in Sedona rather than Siberia, I couldn't be more proud of being sanctioned by Vladimir Putin for standing up for freedom and human rights for the Russian people and against Putin's deadly aggression in Ukraine. I'll never stop my efforts to support democracy, free speech, and the rule of law in Russia," end quote. I couldn't agree more. Assistant Secretary Rosenberg, it's good to see you. I'm encouraged by reports that the Russian military is being forced to repurpose domestic industry to obtain key inputs for its battlefield hardware because no respected world power will sell to them. This success shows what's possible when nations put aside differences and work together towards a common goal. Can you expand on the direct combat implications of this achievement? And are these international export restrictions a factor in why the Russian military had to pull back from Kharkiv a few weeks ago?
Thank you, Senator, for the opportunity to discuss this issue. Indeed, we do believe that export restrictions are and financial sanctions are directly meaningful for Russia's difficulty in sourcing modern, state-of-the-art battlefield equipment. The soldiers on its front line don't have access to key warfighting equipment, which degrades its readiness, its posture, and its ability to wage this war. Specifically, we've noticed and pointed out Russia's difficulty in getting access to chips, certain high-tech equipment that is significant as components to certain battlefield equipment. As you've rightly noted, Russia's not in the position, has struggled to be able to procure this on the open market because responsible countries of the world have denied it the opportunity to procure those goods. That's something that we'll seek to continue. Those export controls continue to tighten. They are a vice that continues to tighten, and successively over time, it will be more and more difficult for Russia to source that equipment, meaning that its second-rate material is an impediment for battlefield readiness for the period of the war yet ahead of us, unfortunately.
Thank you. Do you have a sense of which industrial goods and technology are the most devastating for global suppliers to withhold from the Russian military?
Senator, I didn't catch the beginning of your question, but to the extent that this is about particular goods and technology controlled by...
Yes.
Yes. I would defer to my Commerce Department colleagues who maintain the lists and the particular prohibitions, as well as my Defense Department colleagues and their analysts to make an assessment of what is most significant to Russia's warfighting ability and its battlefield readiness. But as I believe you've noted, the broad array of restrictions across many categories of equipment and technology that Russia uses to source its battlefield equipment are important, as well as the complementary financial sanctions that also seek to deprive Russia the opportunity to make such procurements.
Thank you. I also want to ask you about the efficacy of current restrictions on Russian oil exports. Some reports state that Russian oil producers are attempting to circumvent the spirit of these restrictions by blending their oil with oil from other countries so that the percentage of Russian oil falls beneath 50%. Under current rules, that would allow the oil to be branded as a non-Russian country's blend, even though nearly half of the oil revenue will continue to go to Russia. Is this an issue of concern for the United States, or is this primarily an issue for the European Commission?
Thank you. At this time, we are putting together, as you know, and we've had the opportunity to discuss here, the price cap policy, which will come into force on December 5th. The point that you've made about blending of Russian crude is one that we've heard from other other individuals and people in the industry, we have an opportunity to offer further clarity and guidance on this important point in the forthcoming guidance and frequently asked questions that the U.S. government will put out in the coming weeks to effectuate our price cap, and our partners in other G7 countries will have the opportunity to do so as well to clarify the specificity here. But it is important to remember that Russian oil on the water is Russian oil on the water under the purposes of the price cap policy. Thank you.
And my final question, does the department support European Commission efforts to tighten restrictions on this very type of blending scheme?
Thank you, Senator. We work very closely with the European Commission, which is part of the G7, which is part of the coalition for the price cap, so G7 countries and the EC. We all collectively see the price cap policy as strengthening and enforcing the existing set of restrictions that we have to respond to Russia. And what it does is build upon the EU's sixth package. It passed in the spring that has the provisional legal basis for its ban on Russian services for third countries. So we will certainly work closely with the EU and other G7 partners as we continue to implement this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.